Still the Place with Laura Layton,
Courtney Thorne-Smith,
and Daphne Zuniga, an iHeartRadio podcast.
Yay. Hi, ladies.
You guys.
It's so good to see you in person. You've been Zoom faces for the last month.
We haven't all been together in so long.
No. So can we start? We have a lot to cover.
Yes.
Okay.
Can we talk about 90s Con? Dying to hear.
It's so funny because, like, for the audience, it may seem like that was a while ago, especially for the fans that were there. But for us, we haven't seen each other in a lot of weeks because Daphne was traveling, and during that time we were at 90s Con, and you were not, and we missed you so much.
We missed you.
I'm
It was
sorry
so much
to have
fun.
missed out. Was it?
It was
I'm
so
sure
much
it
fun,
was.
Court. It really was.
And everyone was asking.
Everyone was like,
that's
"Where's
so
Court?" We're like, "She's
sweet.
busy."
So did you guys get to hang out a lot, or were you together like all day, every day? Is that how it works?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, how fun.
For shoots. Heather missed a flight, so she came in a day late.
Poor baby.
But she wasn't the only one. There were a couple others too, because it was Daytona, so it wasn't. It was like a connection kind of thing and everything. We were running around all day, right? We were just running down hallways to panels, to trivia games, to professional photos, to our booths, to fans. I mean, tons of stuff.
Oh, that's so you're not just sitting there all day. You're actually doing
yeah,
stuff.
we had things
yeah.
scheduled and like group things and then
Yeah.
solo things, but we were always like right next to each other, and so we literally spent the entire weekend together. It was
We did
it
a
was
promo.
kind of like
She and I did a promo while we were like in between signing autographs. I'm like behind the curtain going, "Join us on Still the Place this week."
No, I saw that on the text chain. I saw that. I'll meet you there. I'm meeting in the curtain. Laura, where are you? Ready for the promo? I was like, so it's like I'm there. It was so exciting.
Yeah.
And there was fun 90s music playing at the con, so that was super fun too. But it's like, wait, it's kind of loud. We need to record this promo really quick for Still the Place. I'm like, hang on. I ran to the ladies' room and like, I'm in the booth.
Yeah.
I'm in the stall.
And then we recorded with Josie and Grant, as the fans know.
We
if
got
you
to
were
sit down
listening.
with them twice. That was
Really cool.
so fun. It really just felt like this great excuse to have another getaway. Like, hey, we had this road trip, this like getaway with our friends. And it was
I
super
did
fun.
some interviews yesterday for a TV movie I did, and they were asking about the podcast, and I was like, really? It's just an excuse to get everybody together because we've seen so many of our castmates just in the couple months we've been doing this.
It's the best perk of doing this.
Really.
It just feels like a guilty, like it's our actual reason for doing it is just to hang out with each other.
Exactly. It's so
Isn't
fun.
it amazing how we did this show 30-something years ago, and we can't find anyone ever since then as fun and interesting to hang out with and with each other. So it's like, I know, let's watch the show again and visit
And
with each
talk
other.
about stuff together. Yeah. And we were sort of having that conversation with Josie and Grant too. Like, you know, there were a lot of years where we weren't totally in touch because everybody's lives took them in different directions.
Having
but
children.
like getting reacquainted now and like going, I want to be with these people and I want to know about your life and I want to learn about you now and whatever. We have this shared history, but also like a new friendship too, on top of the old friendship. I love it.
And the weird thing is, it's like no time has passed. Isn't that the weird thing? And I think it's part of that thing of you feel a certain age. Like I look at the show, I kind of know we look different, but I feel like we still look pretty much the same. Which don't correct me.
I
Don't tell me
recognize
it's not
everybody,
true.
which is good.
recognize everybody. So was there anyone else fun at 90s Con? Like outside of our group? Was there anybody
Well, the
else that was
90210
fun?
kids were all there. We
All of
got
them?
to some of them. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
good handful.
yeah, Jenny Garth. We talked to Brian, Austin Green was there. Ian was there. I didn't see him, but
Yeah, there were lots of people. It was just
There
such a happy vibe. Like the guests in attendance, like the fans in attendance, everybody's just happy. Like the 90s was this like happy vibe, and the music and whatever. So it's just like this happy time.
And the fans are amazing. They
So
came from
nice.
all over. I met people from Germany, from the Maldives, from Hungary, from Canada, from Brazil. I mean, they come from all over.
And everybody is just so nice and happy to be there. It's
Yeah.
just a really fun thing. So
Yeah, it's
hopefully
really a fun
there'll be another
fest.
one in the future and we can all do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
You have to
next
come to
year
the
my
next
son
one.
will be a senior, so he won't care if I'm there or not.
Like,
I didn't notice you were
at the
gone.
house.
Did you go, Mom? I didn't even notice.
In fact, could you just
Can't
go?
you go to a con,
I had no
Mom?
idea you
Yeah.
were gone.
Yeah.
I love it.
Fun.
We got to get back on track with our recaps.
We do. I remembered this episode so clearly.
You do?
You know, yeah, you guys weren't because you weren't quite there yet. So I was gonna say, do you remember? I'm like, no, we're not there. You guys don't. You guys weren't there at this episode.
You do.
Yes, and we'll
good.
get into it but I think because the woman who Billy has a little fling with in this one, Well, you know what? I'm going to wait until, but I remember her so clearly. We had such a good time. I got along so well with her. And I'll just say this. She had to be a stand-up comedian. And she was horrified to have to stand up and do stand-up. Have you guys ever done stand-up?
No.
No, and never will.
Terrifying, right? And I just remembered her being
The actress.
the actor, yes, she was wonderful.
Yeah.
But being so terrified about doing it. So it like locked in my brain because she was so terrified. This episode locked in my brain. I remember almost every second of it.
So you're like, I will never do stand-up.
And
because
I
her
knew that
part
anyway.
required her doing stand-up.
I have to say, I wonder if part of the reason why you remember shooting this also, and I could see it on your face, and we'll talk about it when we get there, but like you and Andrew in real life were fully dating by this time, right?
Yes.
So,
Well, from like
episode 3.
it was not
right, but like we
were professional for about 7 minutes.
You were all in by now, and
Yeah.
like this episode, you can really see like.
You think?
I think Allison's jealousy or whatever is actually Courtney's.
Yeah. Were you triggered watching this one, Court?
You're like, that wasn't in the script,
Were
Courtney.
you triggered watching this 30 years later? Because you've been triggered already with like guest stars. These guest
It was,
stars.
she was
that-
all over him. I remember. I know that it was Jensen. I remember that. I don't know, maybe, but you can see that the writers either already had the plan or were picking up on
Yeah.
it because there was an
Yeah.
edge
Sure.
to every single line I
Which
had.
is just so adorable.
Yeah,
always,
for sure it's
always,
developing.
always adorable.
So cute.
Okay, so let's jump in. Let's see. The name of this episode is "Responsibly Yours." This is season 1, episode 9. "Responsibly Yours." In this episode, Billy is going to attempt a relationship with an older woman who she is a stand-up comic. Things get complicated because we're going to find out
kid.
she has a kid. So yeah, all the usual
dare she?
suspects.
There's a responsibility.
All the usual suspects. And this show is, of course, created by Darren Star. This episode was written by Darren Star and Frederick Rappaport. I am going to wear my glasses today. Yep,
Nice.
I'm going to do it. All right, so the episode opens. Billy is driving his taxi down the street. He notices a woman leaning over the open hood of a car. He pulls over and approaches the woman. "Can I lend you a hand?"
And by the way, did you guys notice in our sweet Billy that moment of lecherousness?
Absolutely. He's like,
I'm like, hello.
Yeah. What do I see bending over the hood of the car? But I know. Yeah. And he gets out in his giant jean shorts, his jorts.
Jorts.
Jorts before they were even in.
That's
Totally
hilarious.
wearing giant jean shorts. But yeah, he offers to help with whatever's wrong with her car. Turns out he doesn't really know what's going on with her car. She seems to know more than he does, but he offers her a ride in
So
his
are we going
cab.
to talk about who it is? Our guest star there?
Yeah.
So it's Joyce Heiser.
Yes.
Joyce Heiser had a big movie in the 80s. So almost 10 years before this. Just One of the Boys.
Oh, it was before this.
Huh?
Oh,
Didn't come after.
interesting.
I looked it up, and so that was in the 80s. This is in 92. But people have talked about it in our comments as well. The guest stars, we've talked about it. Like
Yeah.
the guest stars, what either they've already done or what they've gone on to do. We've had some great guest stars on this show. So anyway, Joyce Heiser had a solid career already. And I was talking to a friend yesterday. This is how small the town was back then. Who's like, he watched the episode because he's watching and listening along with us. And he's like, you know what? I auditioned for Just One of the Boys.
Wow.
I came down to the wire, but they gave it to Clayton Rohner, who a couple years later, I did a movie with Clayton Rohner.
Wow.
Modern Girls. But and now he's friends with and knows and has had dinner with the director of Just One of the Boys. Anyway, it's very behind
crazy
the scenes.
small town. Yeah.
Small town. It was a small town
Yeah.
before. I mean, we all, you'd audition and
Well, we
and then
also
they'd-
all lived here. Like now
Yes.
people live in New York and they live in
Totally.
Atlanta. People live everywhere because that's where the work is now.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a company town as much.
and people audition online with their self-tapes and like when was the last time anyone was in a room with an actual producer, casting
Yeah.
person, or director?
Not quite
you
the
know?
same process anymore. But it
Anyway,
is
I think
totally
and
a small town.
I think her experience really shows in this. Like she was very solid, like
Oh,
she knew
so
these
solid.
some of these lines were kind of cheesy and like a little cringy for me, but she knew what they wanted and she delivered it.
And she committed.
she's
Like
great.
she was terrified to do the stand up, but she stood up there and she committed. And,
Yeah.
and it really worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was great. She was fun to work with too. I really remember her well.
So cool.
And I was thinking too, my favorite part of being a regular on a TV series is meeting the guest stars.
Yeah,
That's my favorite part. Like, you're doing the work, but they bring new friends in for you every week to meet and be a part of, and you get to welcome them into your little family.
Yeah.
That's probably the
like
thing I miss most about being on a series.
Yeah. It's like this injection of new
Well,
energy.
also the money, but
Yes,
also
exactly.
Well, there was money.
Well, that was a given.
All right, so there they go. She gets in his car. He's blasting music. She asks for less volume, and then she reveals that she's a shoe salesman. Billy is taken with her anyways, tells her she's funny. They pull into a service station where she reveals that she doesn't have the money to pay for the cab. So she pays
quick
Billy
question:
instead.
Did you recognize the shoe brand? She's like, these are us. I was like,
It was.
that's not. Was it a made up
thought-
brand?
I
It was a
feel like
made-up
it was a
brand.
made up
Oh, a
brand.
made-up
Like it was a
brand.
take
Okay.
on.
Yeah.
Like it was close to something that's a brand, but it was
Okay.
a made up brand.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I
felt
wondered.
like. Yeah, it was not, but it was something, something else made up.
I think I was very close, Laura.
Yeah, yeah, it's familiar. So she offers to pay Billy for the cab with show tickets to her stand-up gig. Then we cut to Jake.
By the way, sorry, just a little. I'm just remembering. This is the second time we've seen where one of these people is offering payment with like a tickets to a show.
Yeah.
To somebody's like that was back in the day when you were putting on stand up or art shows or dance shows, and like your form of payment and currency was here's some free tickets. You know
Well,
what
I
I mean?
think
Like
it's-
no one had money.
I think it's also like a writing mechanism to get the people to that performance, which
scene.
is a story point. Yeah, like, oh, well, Jake finds Michael in the courtyard, tells Michael that he's too spiffy to be gardening in the courtyard because Michael seems to be all dressed up. He's wearing his tie and he's tending to the azaleas.
Does he say spiffy?
Spiffy.
That's hilarious.
I think he says spiffy, or was that my node? Do you remember? Did he say spiffy? I think he said spiffy.
was
I can't remember.
hilarious. Yeah.
I don't think I would have written it if he hadn't actually said it.
Spiffy.
He's too spiffy. He's too spiffy dressed in his
Sign
little
of the times.
Yeah,
which is so Grant.
gardening. Totally.
Exactly. So
Oh my
great.
gosh. So Michael tells Jake that Jane wants to have dinner tonight, and he thinks he might get lucky. And Jake says, "Well, dude, you're definitely lucky. You've got the girl, you've got this relationship." And all of a sudden, Jake is sort of like going, "How do you do? Like, what's your secret? How do you know?" And Michael's like, "Well, you've got all this freedom. What do you mean? You're lucky too." And Jake says, "No, what he wants to do is figure out how to, figure out this relationship thing." So Michael gives him some advice. He tells him to tamp down those animal instincts, and there's something to be said for taking it slow. Friendship first, he says.
Which
Off
is
of
very
which.
good advice, I must say. But in that scene, about 7 times, he says, "You know how to get the ladies. You can get the ladies. You know how to get the ladies." I'm like, wow, we're really hitting this
So wait,
point.
does Jake know how to get the ladies?
Yeah, right. Quick question.
I mean, because it's not obvious by the way
Yeah.
that he looks.
Right.
yeah, exactly. So he's got so much to work through. It's so hard.
We have to really sell that Jake can get whoever he wants.
Right. But I thought it was really cute, like Jake's approach. He was like sort of kind of vulnerable and like actually
sweet.
asking. And it was
I love it when they, because that is Grant. Like, Grant really has that side to him. I love it when he gets to show it as Jake. It's so sweet.
So that scene ends with Jake considering, could he do something like that? Friendship first? What a concept. So then we cut to Billy and Allison's apartment where, that's Billy and Allison's apartment, right? Where Rhonda was cooking. It wasn't Rhonda's apartment. It was Billy and Allison's.
I think it was.
Right. Dinner party with Rhonda and Matt, Billy and Allison. But I believe they were having the dinner in Billy and Allison's apartment. However, Rhonda was cooking. And she's cooking. Matt is teasing Billy about the new crush he has on this girl, Dawn. And we kind of pick up on a little bit of jealousy from the look on Allison's face. And that's where I wondered.
Or
was that-
Courtney's face.
I
It's a
think
very
that was
fine
Courtney's
line.
face.
Actress.
Yeah, it was
You were
maybe
so
Courtney's
method.
face showing through. But she does tease Billy about his interest in Dawn and that he's not very mature in general. And the theme of all the teasing seems to be that Billy is a child, that he's immature.
Yeah, but they're pitching it as a big age difference. It didn't look like an age difference, but then they said at one point he was 23, and I was like, 23, that's crazy. But I was 24.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe. We were that young.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember feeling very grown up,
Wow.
but that's very young.
You were 24.
So I think the idea
24.
was that this girl had to be older because she'd been married for 8 years already, right? So that just is an indication of, but it never kind of comes up that
Assuming
she is
she
older.
didn't get married at 14.
Right. We should assume that. So they're teasing him and they're making this dinner and he says he'll pay for his portion of the dinner with the comedy show tickets.
So twice in one episode, we're paying for something with tickets.
Because now everybody
Pay
needs
it
to get the
forward.
comedy show. How else are you going to get there? So at the comedy show, Dawn's routine reveals that she is, in fact, divorced, which is news to Billy and everybody. And she makes some jokes about marriage, which Billy kind of laughs too hard at. And he elbows Allison very hard in the arm at one point. I had to go back and go, oh my God, the look on your face was like actual ow. Actual ow. After her set, she approaches the table, says hi to the gang. Billy
And don't you
introduces her.
think that Doug and Vanessa were playing it like they didn't like it? It was super uncomfortable.
I felt like they were just trying to be polite. Yeah, it was
Right.
like Billy was really like taken with it, like, oh, isn't she great? And everybody was like, yes, very politely. Yes, she's great. Yes. You know, like even when Matt says, oh, I really liked the part about, single life. He's really trying to be nice, like picking out a part of her
But
set.
she's supposed to be good. Like, obviously, we know the actor is good, but that was confusing to me.
I thought it was like demonstrating that Billy was just smitten. Like, so his level of, approval was.
And didn't you know when she came to the table and he put his arm around her, again, Courtney Allison, very fine line, but he put his arm around her, I was thinking, that's too soon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
too soon. I think that's the part of the show though. It's all too soon. He's acting too. Remember, even just a couple scenes later, he's like, "This is too much," or maybe the midpoint of the
coming
whole thing.
on too much, too fast, too soon. Yeah,
but it just shows his kind of like naivete and excitement about it. I think. Like,
yeah.
Oh, maybe this is girlfriend material. The girl I picked up on the side of the road.
But I was thinking, like, from her point of view, that was her cab driver. Like, you know what I mean? Like, nobody ever really
this
talks
has
about
happened
that.
twice.
He was her cab driver.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's got his arm around
there's
her.
like a creepy element to it. Like, wait,
think
the
when
cab
you guys
driver
start-
that just wouldn't leave? Like,
I know.
I think Allison needs to tell Billy, you cannot pick up any women as a cab driver. I'm over this.
yeah, or just like don't speed. Like,
Speed right by him.
I wonder how long he's going to be a cab driver. Since I wasn't there, I have no idea how long.
Well,
this
also
lasts.
sign of the times, right? In LA, you don't see cabs moving around looking for customers on the street anymore.
Not as much.
Lecherously looking for women bent over their car anymore.
Yeah.
looking like Andrew Shue anyway. None of these things exist in real life. Billy invites Dawn to stay. Maybe they could grab a pizza or something. She says she needs to catch the last bus, the downtown bus home. Billy offers her a ride, driving her home instead, which she then accepts.
And
Allison
I guess
rolls
we
her
take the
eyes.
bus home.
Exactly.
Did he drive? Maybe he drove. Maybe he didn't drive. Yeah. Yeah.
So he would be driving his
walk.
cab, right? Or
cab.
does he have another car? This poor guy, like he's driving his cab everywhere.
Yeah,
Probably,
he doesn't
yeah.
have another car.
Just turning it on off duty.
That's right. I love. We'll just walk. So Allison here rolls her eyes. Dawn makes one more awkward joke on her exit, and she says, "Somebody ought to bottle this guy for medicinal purposes."
Out on Allison.
Yuck. So then Billy and Dawn are having a great time. Late night coffee at a table for two. Billy learns that Dawn was married for 8 years. She tells him that her ex didn't really support her dreams. And Billy commiserates, says, yeah, it's really hard when someone you love doesn't support you. Then he reaches across the table for her hand, saying sometimes it helps if there's someone there to catch you.
Wow. Now we would call that love bombing.
I think it's a
He's
a lot.
a big love bomber in this whole episode.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah, you fell hard and fast. Like, I can be there to catch you.
Yeah, I will be your hero.
Yeah, we've only just met. I know I'm your cab driver. But then we cut to shooters. Jake is asking Sandy out for a burger after work. She's not so sure. Didn't they already try this once, she thinks? So Sandy tells Jake, I think that, after our one night stand, I was ready for more. And Jake says, well, then let's try this again. Let's try to wipe the slate clean. We'll start over, this time just as friends. And I feel like Jake is super earnest here.
He had a line that I promise you Grant fought where he says, abstinence makes a heart grow fonder. And she goes, absence. And I was like, Grant was like, honestly, does he have to sound so stupid? Like, I know that Grant, the way Grant said it through gritted teeth, I was like, he does not like that line. Did you notice that?
Yeah. Well, I also got the sense that he tried to do it with like a wink and
I think he was
not
doing it
like
as a
the character's
joke,
like,
no?
I know the difference. I just have to say this line. Like, like the character knows the difference.
He made
too.
it work, but I could hear him having the
Yeah.
argument. I could see him like, oh, I don't want to, but I have to.
Yeah, it's like the whole scene was written just to get to that line. Abstinence makes the heart grow fonder. So they decide to give it a shot, maybe a platonic date. We'll see. But we cut back to Billy and Dawn at the pizza place. He's taking her home. They're walking through the hallway of her apartment. And the night almost ends in a kiss at the door. After Billy ends, he suggests that the night doesn't need to end. But the apartment door opens, revealing a young boy and his babysitter. Eek. Dawn introduces Billy to her son, Martin, and relieves the babysitter.
Which is the name of a 50-year-old
Right.
comedy writer, not a...
Martin?
Yeah.
it wasn't Marty
Martin is the name of the child, and Billy is the name of our adult character.
Martin's played by Justin Isfeld. He's the guy who went on to be in all the American Pie movies.
Yes. So the kid playing Martin, who's
Martin,
not
Mr.
a
Martin.
50-year-old man,
Martin.
Mr. Child Martin. Well, he was great in this episode. And, it's just so funny that was the character's name. I laughed about it through the whole time, referring
did?
to him as Martin. There's actually one point, in this next scene,
I didn't notice
I caught
that.
Allison laughing at it too. Did you catch it? I feel like you couldn't help it.
Hey, I'm Jay Shetty and I'm the host of On Purpose. My latest episode is with Jelly Roll. This episode is one of the most honest and raw interviews I've ever had. We go deep into Jelly Roll's life story from being in and out of prison from the age of 13 to being one of today's biggest artists. We talk about guilt, shame, body image, and huge life transformations.
I was a desperate delusional dreamer, and the desperate part got me in a lot of trouble. I encourage delusional dreamers. Be a delusional dreamer. Just don't be a desperate delusional dreamer. I just had such an anger. I was just so mad at life. Everything that wasn't right was everybody's fault but mine. I had such a victim mentality. I took zero accountability for anything in my life. I was the kid that if you asked what happened, I immediately started with everything but me. It took years for me to break that, like years of work.
Listen to On Purpose with Jay Shetty on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Trust me, you won't want to miss this one.
I'm Cheryl Swoops, WNBA champ, 3-time Olympian, and Basketball Hall of Famer. I'm a mom, and I'm a woman.
I'm Tarika Foster Brasby, journalist, sports reporter, basketball analyst, a wife, and I'm also a woman.
And on our new podcast, we're talking about the real obstacles women face day to day.
See, athlete or not, we all know it takes a lot as women to be at the top of our game.
We want to share those stories about balancing work and relationships, motherhood, career shifts. You know, just all the we go through.
Because no matter who you are, there are levels to what we experience as women.
And T and I, well, we have no problem going there.
Listen to Levels to This with Cheryl Swoops and Tarika Foster Brasby, an iHeart Women's sports production in partnership with Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment. You can find us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Presented by e.l.f. Beauty, founding partner of iHeart Women's Sports.
I'm Julian Edelman.
I'm Rob Gronkowski.
Guess what, folks? We're teammates again. And we're going to welcome you guys all to Dudes on Dudes.
I'm a dude. You're a dude, and Dudes on Dudes is our brand new show.
We're going to highlight players, peers, guys that we played against, legends from the past, and we're just going to sit here and talk about them. And we'll get into the types of dudes. What kind of types of dudes are there, Gronks?
We got studs, wizards. We got freaks.
Or dudes dude.
We got dogs.
We'll break down their games, we'll share some insider stories, and determine what kind of dude each of these dudes are. Is Randy Moss a stud or a freak? Is Tom Brady a dog or a dude's dude?
We're gonna find out, Jules. New episodes drop every Thursday during the NFL season.
Listen to Dudes on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This election season, the stakes are higher than ever.
I think the choice is clear in this election.
Join me, Charlamagne the God, for We the People, an audio town hall with Vice President Kamala Harris and you, live from Detroit, Michigan, exclusively on iHeartRadio. They'll tackle the tough questions, the pressing issues, and the future of our nation.
We may not see eye to eye on every issue, but America, we are not going back.
Don't miss this powerful conversation with Vice President Kamala Harris.
Today at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific on the free iHeartRadio app's Hip Hop Beat Station.
Once again, we find ourselves in an unprecedented election. And with all that's happening in the lead up to the big day, a weekly podcast just won't cut it. Get a better grasp of where we stand as a nation every weekday on the NPR Politics Podcast. Here, our seasoned reporters dig into the issues that are shaping voters' decisions and understand how the latest updates play into the bigger picture. Listen to the NPR Politics Podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
So, yeah, we're back at Allison and Billy's apartment. Allison's getting ready for work in the morning. Billy returns home saying that it's not that he was out late with Dawn, but that he actually drove the graveyard shift last night. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Dawn has a son, Martin.
Wait, is this when I'm doing the crossword puzzle?
No.
Oh, okay.
You're just getting ready for work. You had your blazer on. And,
okay.
The belt.
Yeah,
the
my
cute
hair in
outfit.
a bun. Hair in a bun.
Yeah.
I noticed that. That's kind of
yeah. And then, but I laughed because he says Dawn has a son. He's like, well, Martin was there, and you went,
Martin? A 50-year-old man?
Yeah.
Was there?
What was your dad doing there?
Yeah.
Grandpa. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, no, Billy says this is a kid. I'm still interested in Dawn. I'm just concerned about the complications of having a kid around. And Allison is sort of empathetic, saying, well, it must be really hard to be a single mom and have guys running away at the sight of your kid. Which seemed to sort of encourage Billy, who says, yeah, maybe I'm just being selfish. I can do this even with the kid around. But Allison pushes him and questions sort of whether Billy is mature enough to understand how to handle the dynamic of a whole family. At which time he turns it on her, saying that just because Allison is intimidated by children, and Allison's like, what? I was a great babysitter. Everyone said so. So
everyone's talking about it to this day.
It's so weird. So that was sort of a funny, like he tries to say, well, just because you're intimidated doesn't mean I can't handle it.
Kind of comes out of left
like,
field.
Yeah, because that was a really mature
How long have you
way
been
to
sitting on that one.
real mature Billy. We're back with Rhonda and Sandy. Sandy's getting ready for her date with Jake. And Rhonda is warning her that Jake never called her back the first time, and he may not have really changed, any in the last 6 months.
Never called them back after they hooked up.
After they had their one-night stand.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the whole theme of this is, they're trying to be platonic, and Billy is trying to see if he's good father material. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, they always seem to do this. Like, these two sort of parallel stories are opposite. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rhonda is saying to Sandy, you guys hooked up and then he never called you. And I think, I don't know, I was thinking like, God, in the same apartment building? Like, wouldn't he have just banged on his door and said, what the?
Well, but also, I felt like, are we pretending that we haven't seen them flirt in every single episode?
Right.
Like, it's not like that's what happened and they didn't speak till this moment.
Right.
They're almost doing it in every single episode.
Yeah.
Well, then
they're
Rhonda's-
trying to do it platonically now, just be friends.
Yes.
They're trying to, it's like new territory for them.
And Rhonda's saying
Exactly.
to Sandy, like, do you trust him? Do you feel like you can trust him? And Sandy ends that scene by saying, well, I don't know if I can trust myself, which is sort of the foreshadowing of like, oh, we just can't keep our hands off each other. I don't know if I can, because it's just,
She's like a cat on a hot tin roof.
Yeah.
Too bad she doesn't have her accent anymore.
Indeed.
That really
then we could really identify it. So then dinner. At the dinner table at Dawn's house is Billy, Dawn, and Martin,
It's a little
the child.
tense.
Yeah, super awkward and tense at the dinner table. Martin wants nothing to do with Billy. Billy does offer to drive Dawn to her gig coming up in Ventura, because Dawn reminds him that her car is broken down. But Martin, the child, says, no way will I ride with Billy. And then a screaming fight ensues.
And I don't know if it's a sign of the times, but now, like when people are divorced with kids and they date, it's like nobody meets the kids for 6 months. You would never have your first date with the kids.
Yeah.
So soon.
At
Start
home
with the
at the family dinner table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like you to call Billy Daddy. I know you've just met him. It's like,
He was my cab driver yesterday,
jumping
but today...
Today he's your new daddy.
Oh, God. Ew. Oh. So Dawn and Martin start yelling at each other. And that screaming fight reveals that Martin's dad, in Dawn's words, won't pay child support. And therefore, Dawn is struggling to find that $300 that she needs to fix her car. And Billy seems to want to stick this out instead of finding that very concerning of how they sort of screamed at each
He
other.
seems to hear it as a direct question.
Yeah. Like, all right, let me try to solve the money problem instead of going, why is this mother screaming so ragefully at her child? Which I thought was a fair question. I mean, I'm watching this for the first time going, wow.
I see a red flag.
That was a red flag to me.
Yes.
Seemed like not your typical mother-son relationship. But anyway, Dawn says something she needs to apologize for, so she leaves the table to go apologize to Martin, leaving Billy alone.
The wheels are turning. You see
Considering-
the wheels are turning. There's a plan being formed.
So Sandy and Jake are at their bar after their movie date, congratulating themselves on getting through the movie without jumping each other's bones.
They're trying not to entangle themselves,
Yeah.
and Billy's trying desperately
Yeah.
to entangle
Where
himself
he
any
should
way he can.
not be, right?
Yeah.
And so the conversation quickly takes a turn when Jake reminds Sandy just how tricky it is to have Sandy living just right upstairs. And he says, I don't know how many times I thought about coming upstairs and just...
Dot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Sandy agrees, I know what you mean. And yeah, so it just took a very quick turn. So much for congratulating themselves.
Well, I mean, I don't know. You see the heat between them for so many episodes.
Yeah.
And so it is, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just, this whole storyline makes total sense with
Yeah.
me and to me, because all they are is like sex, these two. They're the sexual characters on the show, and let's just try to be friends and this whole thing. Oh, yes. Well, how was your day? The kind of thing. Just isn't going to be them. They're going to end up ripping each other's clothes off.
Here's what I don't understand about this conflict, which is we're great friends who have the hots for each other. Isn't that the perfect relationship?
I mean,
like,
I
isn't
think
that
so.
the ideal?
I know. Why are they?
What's the
putting
problem here?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I don't see the problem.
Yeah.
Right? Great.
I think because they don't know how to do what comes next, which is being responsible to each other, being respectful, having a conversation. That ideally that would happen after you hook up, and
So-
they just kind of like freak out. That's all they know how to do is the hookup. Is the
So
point.
once they have sex, they kill the friendship. They can't maintain both.
They don't know how to. Well, yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
I see.
I
Because
think.
I was thinking that sounds very good to me.
Yeah. Well,
I
it does
know.
sound like Sandy's feelings were hurt. Like, wait a minute, we had this, it turned out to be a one night stand, but like she thought, not hearing from him about it after, like it never happened
Well,
again,
I mean,
or like that was
hello.
like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, you
Who-
just, yeah.
Listen, you've been married how many years? But for those of us who haven't,
And it's still just as hot as the first
is.
day.
yes, I mean he does call you, right?
We actually still speak.
He texts you from the kitchen.
We do.
Hey, how you doing?
What are you wearing?
We also speak.
Gets in the car to go to rehearsal, and he's like, "You're so hot."
Every day.
Nice.
Every day we tell each other.
I guess what I wanted to get to is that I think a lot of women can relate to, the hunt is over, and then you don't hear from them.
Yeah.
I
Interesting.
seem to remember
Okay.
those back in the day, those many years ago.
Well, back to Dawn's house.
Yes.
Speaking of creepy, Billy lets himself into Martin's bedroom while he's maybe sleeping, but it turns out Martin's lying in bed crying, not sleeping. Billy just sort of walks in and says he wants to talk to Martin like men, which Martin points out that he can't really do because he's a kid.
Also, you're a stranger.
Yeah, and you're a stranger.
I want my
Stranger
dad.
danger,
You
stranger
just
danger.
entered my bedroom.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So there's that, which we never kind of address. But I was conscious of it the entire scene.
But this whole thing is very Billy to me. He's just kind of like clueless and privileged, like this good-looking white guy can do whatever. Like it doesn't even dawn on him that I should be going in there.
Like,
Why
there's
not?
a line
I
you
want
shouldn't cross
something.
here. There's a
I
couple
want a
lines you should-
relationship.
I imagine on the day Andrew said, "Really?" And they said,
Yeah.
"Yes, it's fine." He's like, "All right."
Right. Like I feel
What's
like
my
it was I feel like it was a directorial thing. Like, okay, it's too hard to shoot the whole scene with you just standing in the doorway and having this conversation. So why don't you go over and sit on the bed? Like
into the little boy's
it
room.
just got really, really
They always
uncomfortable.
love you close to each other on set, so they don't have to do all these different angles.
Yeah.
like the over the shoulder and this and that. They just if they can just get you in one shot, that would be so. Get close somehow. Don't you remember that? They always
yeah,
like
but
to
it's
do
and
that.
it's also like you can tell by the
Well, it
music
makes no
cues, like
sense.
what they wanted the tone of the scene to feel like. Oh, that this needs to feel like a really intimate, like adult child the conversation, and he's being really gentle, and the music cue is very hallmarky, schmaltzy, but it's like, wait, we're not addressing the weirdness of him like sitting down on the kid's bed uninvited, like, ugh. Yeah, not Andrew's fault.
Not Andrew's fault.
Yeah,
no,
just a pitfall. And so he tries to bond with Martin. I keep wanting to call Martin Billy because that's a child's name.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Martin.
Billy, the adult, wants to bond with Martin, the child, over the Terminator movies, and wants to talk to him and say, "Oh, you're a fan of this too." And he reminds Martin that the Terminator was always there for the kid and his mother. But Martin says, "Yeah, but the Terminator went away in the end." And then Billy says, "Yeah, but that was in the movie. This is real." Kind of a creepy scene. But I think the point is that Billy's just continuing to want to insert himself in this relationship and be the hero.
His fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah. He wants to be the hero.
Hey, I'm Jay Shetty and I'm the host of On Purpose. My latest episode is with Jelly Roll. This episode is one of the most honest and raw interviews I've ever had. We go deep into Jelly Roll's life story from being in and out of prison from the age of 13 to being one of today's biggest artists. We talk about guilt, shame, body image, and huge life transformations.
I was a desperate delusional dreamer, and the desperate part got me in a lot of trouble. I encourage delusional dreamers. Be a delusional dreamer. Just don't be a desperate delusional dreamer. I just had such an anger. I was just so mad at life. Everything that wasn't right was everybody's fault but mine. I had such a victim mentality. I took zero accountability for anything in my life. I was the kid that if you asked what happened, I immediately started with everything but me. It took years for me to break that, like years of work.
Listen to On Purpose with Jay Shetty on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Trust me, you won't want to miss this one.
I'm Cheryl Swoops, WNBA champ, 3-time Olympian, and Basketball Hall of Famer. I'm a mom, and I'm a woman.
I'm Tarika Foster Brasby, journalist, sports reporter, basketball analyst, a wife, and I'm also a woman.
And on our new podcast, we're talking about the real obstacles women face day to day.
See, athlete or not, we all know it takes a lot as women to be at the top of our game.
We want to share those stories about balancing work and relationships, motherhood, career shifts. Just all the shit we go through.
Because no matter who you are, there are levels to what we experience as women.
And T and I, well, we have no problem going there.
Listen to Levels to This with Cheryl Swoops and Tarika Foster Brasby, an iHeart Women's Sports production in partnership with Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment. You can find us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Presented by e.l.f. Beauty, founding partner of iHeart Women's Sports.
I'm Julian Edelman.
I'm Rob Gronkowski.
Guess what, folks? We're teammates again. And we're going to welcome you guys all to Dudes on Dudes.
I'm a dude. You're a dude, and Dudes on Dudes is our brand new show.
We're going to highlight players, peers, guys that we played against, legends from the past, and we're just going to sit here and talk about them. And we'll get into the types of dudes. What kind of types of dudes are there, Gronks?
We got studs, wizards. We got freaks.
Or dudes dude.
We got dogs.
Dog. We'll break down their games, we'll share some insider stories, and determine what kind of dude each of these dudes are. Is Randy Moss a stud or a freak? Is Tom Brady a dog or a dude's dude?
We're gonna find out, Jules. New episodes drop every Thursday during the NFL season.
Listen to Dudes on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. This election season, the stakes are higher than ever.
I think the choice is clear in this election.
Join me, Charlamagne the God, for We the People, an audio town hall with Vice President Kamala Harris and you, live from Detroit, Michigan, exclusively on iHeartRadio. They'll tackle the tough questions, the pressing issues, and the future of our nation.
We may not see eye to eye on every issue, but America, we are not going back.
Don't miss this powerful conversation with Vice President Kamala Harris.
Today at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific on the free iHeartRadio app's Hip Hop Beat Station.
Once again, we find ourselves in an unprecedented election. And with all that's happening in the lead up to the big day, a weekly podcast just won't cut it. Get a better grasp of where we stand as a nation every weekday on the NPR Politics Podcast. Here, our seasoned reporters dig into the issues that are shaping voters' decisions and understand how the latest updates play into the bigger picture. Listen to the NPR Politics Podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Jake and Sandy are returning home and they're in the courtyard. And instead of saying goodnight with just a handshake and a hug, they start making out. And Jake lets them into his apartment, bringing her onto the couch, making out all the way, until Sandy stops him and says, wait, we are supposed to be taking it slow. At which time Sandy accuses Jake of getting carried away, saying this is all he's ever wanted. But Jake is confused, saying, wait, I thought this was mutual. That hug, and then there was much more. I detected that we're both getting carried away.
They were.
And then Sandy's pissed off because she says, there's nothing between us besides sex. They yell at each other, and Sandy storms out, saying, we're nothing. There's nothing between us. So that was abrupt.
Very abrupt. This is the part they have trouble with. That's what Daphne was saying.
Yeah.
Once the sex comes into it, they have trouble communicating.
Now what?
So now I see it.
Now
Thank
see,
you.
right?
Thank you, Daphne. Now I see it.
You see what a therapeutic show this is for people?
It
They
is.
learn all kinds of
We're
things
working
about
through.
what to do and what not to do. We're working through for everybody.
So Billy comes home to find Allison awake doing a crossword puzzle.
Okay, so this is my question.
Okay.
4-letter word for behemoth. Huge?
That's the one I thought of.
Did you think of that?
I don't even remember the line.
Oh.
I thought behemoth would have been a better answer to something like
I think they wanted the audience to get it. It's like the
7 letters.
TV guide crossword
Yeah.
puzzle. Melrose blank. So you get to feel smart.
Yeah, you
Got
get to
it.
feel smart. I
Thank
like it.
goodness. I feel so smart that we both got the same word. So
It's funny if we found out we were wrong.
yeah.
This is a scene where
That
he
wasn't
just starts
it.
to lie to you and lie.
Yeah, Billy's sort of hanging his head about needing $300, and Allison says, "Wait, I can loan you the money. What's it for?"
Then he just
At which time he lies to Allison, making up a story about his own car being damaged and that he needs to fix it for his job. Allison says she'll happily help them because, after all, it's for his job, and wouldn't he just do the same for her?
I know, and weren't you just?
Yep.
She only has $512 in her account, so she's giving him more than half.
See,
of
there
her
you are, the
worldly
method
goods.
actress.
Very generous.
You know exactly how much you had. in your
I
account.
was doing the math in my head.
Billy's face is racked with guilt over the lie.
Yes.
Sort of.
Sort of. Not guilty enough
Not
to
enough
tell
to
the
not do it.
truth, but he's going to do it anyway. So the next day he delivers the money to Dawn, and she said, wait. This is all going too fast for me, even though she appreciates the help. She does reveal at that point that she's overwhelmed by Billy's sort of like willingness to help, and she doesn't even have a babysitter for the gig, and this is all too much. And what Billy is doing, which is helping her, is really scary, she says. And Billy says it's scary for him too. What can I say? He says, I think you're the greatest. Mm-hmm. And Dawn's face shows a little bit of trepidation, like, wow, this cab driver is coming on.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So then Jake and Michael are doing laundry in the laundry room. Jake in his tank top, of course. And Jake is angry again, telling Michael that he tried to do what Michael told him to do, taking it slow, but it didn't work out. And angrily, he tells Michael that every so often Sandy would, God forbid, smile at him and then forget it.
Clearly, the message is she was asking for it.
Yep.
Which is, again,
That's
not
exactly what he's saying.
Doesn't really play
God
well.
forbid, she
in
smiled at me and then forget it. Yeah, of course.
She smiled at me.
What was I supposed to do?
You know what I mean? Yeah. And then the scene cuts to Sandy telling Rhonda her version of it, where Jake was all over her like a cheap suit. So they're both venting to their
Yeah,
friends.
I
about
like
how
the
it went.
smash cut between scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
that was
fun.
good.
I like it back and
forth.
then it went back a couple times.
The boys and the girls all have different. They each
And
have
Rhonda's,
different
you know,
points of
like,
view.
well, I kind of told you so. And Sandy's like, please don't say that. And but that both of them conclude to their friends that the other one is not ready for a commitment or a serious relationship. So then we're back with Billy and the child Martin. Billy is bringing the child Martin home to his apartment, where they surprise Allison in her robe doing her pedicure.
Yeah.
And Billy's going to be babysitting for the day. And
I like the fact that Martin's mother said to the man who went into her son's bedroom on the first night they met,
And was
why
her
don't
cab
you
driver."
take him for the evening?
Yeah.
Why don't you have
A
your
whole
own
day.
date? Why don't you go on your own date?
yeah, while I'm out of town, You just have my kid for the whole day. Do whatever you want. Go ahead, take him to your apartment, whatever. So yeah, luckily Allison was there. So
she was really worried about the stand-up. Maybe she should have been worried about the parenting. Maybe we had to focus on the wrong.
There's a lot to worry about here. But Allison is there. She tries to offer Martin a snack. Billy and Allison are sort of trying to figure out how to babysit together. And then Billy suggests, why don't we go to
Magic Mountain?
Magic Mountain.
So I want to know, did you guys shot there? Do you remember that?
Yeah, because we were right next to Magic Mountain. What I remembered watching it was that there was an article in the Enquirer that I got off a ride and threw up. That's what I remember.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And did you?
And there was something about Heather, which was funny because Heather wasn't even in the scene, but Heather was there and we got in a fight and then I threw up.
Yeah.
Really?
Love the Enquirer for that.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Fun
That's
fiction.
weird that they were just like, did you feel nauseous at all, maybe?
No, well, they just make random stuff up.
Well, I thought the footage of you guys on the roller coaster was adorable. You guys
really
are
fun.
legitimately joyful, like
really fun.
smiling. That's like roller coaster smile that you can't wipe off your face, but it's just so fun. Yeah.
And what was he like to work with? What was Martin, the kid?
Oh, he's fine. The kids are sweet. They've got their mom there and the teacher
you remember
there,
that,
and
yeah.
you're rushing around. He was sweet. I mean,
Yeah, and he got to go on a roller coaster.
Yeah,
what a fun job for him.
what a
as
fun
kid.
job.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So at the end of that scene, Martin is getting a snack at a snack stand, and Billy and Allison are having a conversation. Allison reminds Billy how much of a commitment it would be to actually have a kid full time. Billy says, well, maybe someday, Allison, you'll have kids.
With
Because
someone.
Yeah, every woman wants to be a mom, he says.
Yeah, you say to him, I don't
Very
want
loaded.
kids.
Yeah, and he says every woman wants to be a mom.
Yeah. So as someone, the only person here who doesn't have kids and who never wanted them, that's very common. Especially, I've had that coming from men.
Just the assumption that every woman wants to be a mom.
The declarative statement,
Right.
every woman wants to have children,
Yeah,
or
and that you'll regret it if you don't. You catch a lot of
and
stuff if you
society
choose not to have a kid.
does that, And I loved the term that a girlfriend of mine who doesn't have kids, who never wanted them, child free.
Yeah,
I like that term.
I like that too.
child-free.
That's great.
Yeah.
It is great.
Yeah, and it's great
It's
to
great.
know that about yourself.
It is great.
And not do it because
It
it's
is
hard.
great.
And if you don't want to do it, you shouldn't do it. Absolutely shouldn't do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Shouldn't.
But I saw this scene, and you guys will see it when your episodes come up. I just wanted to redo it. I'm like, can I have a redo for this scene? I would play this so differently if I could just. That would actually be a
What would
funny
you have
bit.
done?
Like if we could redo the scenes
Yeah.
that we like our scenes.
What would I do differently?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd have.
I didn't like the way I played it, and I was like, oh, it was just. I felt like it was just one note. Like I just sort of went through it, and I think it was out of fear, probably that the material felt scary to me. So I just sort of went through it, and it was just. You'll see, like there will be scenes where you go, oh, I'd love another shot at
I'm
that.
sure I'd love another shot at most of my scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, but there are some that you really go, oh boy, I misplayed it.
Well, also just the subject matter with him saying every woman wants this, and you're like, as the character, I don't think I want this, and I don't think I could handle it. Like
But I don't think I was mature enough as a person. Like I could play. I understood everything about that scene. Now that's what it was. It was like I didn't have the layers that the scene needed because I just think I wasn't there yet. I was 24. Like I was thinking, of course I'll be a mom and have. Like I just wasn't. I hadn't had the complicated thoughts about it that the scene needed.
Well, for what it's worth, I thought you did at a very age appropriate level. Like I did think you had all the things.
Thank you for that. That
believe-
exit strategy for
No.
an age appropriate
I
level.
think-
It was
but
fine.
That was the character's age. That was the character's point of view at her age. And so I
Like
think
with
you have
dogs,
the
they
right
can
colors.
only do so much. So Courtney, what I'm saying,
Courtney. I thought you were great in the scene, and
You're
I
sweet. I'm
got
just
it.
totally
Like that
kidding.
you were,
Thank
that
you.
was a complicated conversation, and I thought that like Billy again was sort of inserting himself and making assumptions that it wasn't his to make. They rode the roller coaster. They had this weird conversation, and then we go back to the courtyard where the gang is in the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
was
looked like fun.
Matt came to
super
work.
cute.
So Doug
Yeah.
came to work
Yep.
to get in the pool.
He had a dinner party scene, and then he was in the pool, and I
Yeah.
think that was all of his appearances for this episode.
And
they're playing with Martin the kid.
I noticed that Billy is doing his soccer stuff with his
Yeah, I
head.
noticed
Did
that
you
too.
notice
He
that?
hit the ball with
he
his
knows
He had a
yeah.
couple good headers. Like, yeah, it's like
Uh-huh.
basketball, soccer in the pool.
Because at that point, well, he had already played. Andrew had already played with the Galaxy, right? Remember, he said he
I don't
played
remember
soccer.
when that happened.
Or did that happen
Overlapped.
after?
He had
played
overlapped.
professional soccer, I think, in Africa, right? That's where he was playing?
No, here.
Where was he playing?
LA Galaxy. But in our interview, he said it. But I don't remember if he said afterwards or before he did the show.
I
it
think
was
he
before.
taught in Africa and played soccer.
Yeah.
And I feel like he played for the Galaxy during the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it overlapped.
That's what I think happened.
Showing off a little stuff there in
Yeah.
the pool
Yeah,
for
very
us.
So they were having a good time playing in the pool, and Allison's sitting poolside talking with Rhonda and Jane. And Allison is observing that Billy actually kind of looks like he's great at this. And it's the first time she sees him as acting like an actual adult. And Allison tells Rhonda and Jane that she loves kids but doesn't think she could be ever ready to be a mom. Rhonda sort of agrees, and Jane says that no one ever feels like they're ready, but that you'd be surprised.
Jane is pregnant, and
Yeah.
we know that now, right?
Yeah.
So she's the one now that is experienced.
Yeah, she says, well, I wasn't exactly feeling like I was ready, but then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you know.
And she's so young.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how much she changed, she says. So Billy and Allison are watching Martin sleep later. He's exhausted after his big day. He's sleeping peacefully, and they both think it's so sweet watching him sleep. And then there's a knock at the door. It's Dawn returning after her gig.
Which really, I think, messes with Allison's little happy family fantasy I have going. I don't think I was very happy to see her.
I don't.
Right.
I don't
No.
think so. I think they had like this long, great day together. And like
Yeah.
even without speaking of it, they both are sort of feeling like,
And
wow,
then this woman comes and takes our child.
Child, imagine that. Right out of her fantasy.
But so Dawn is as grateful as she is for the babysitting help. She thanks Billy for making all the difference because it was a big boost to her career by being able to do the show. And thanks for loaning me the money to fix my car, she says.
The $300.
So not only is Allison jealous of this woman, but now she's furious to learn that Billy has lied about what the money was for. And
And those big blue eyes are like, you lied.
They're full of rage.
Yeah.
They're full of
Those are
shock
rage,
and rage.
pretty eyes.
Talk about having a fantasy burst.
Yes.
The mother walks in with
Yep.
his fantasy child, and then your friend, the guy, he has lied to you. Mm-hmm. So it's like poof, back to reality.
they kiss goodbye at the door.
say.
Like Dawn leaves and they kiss
Yeah.
right in front of Allison. And then she's like just slap in the face.
Yeah.
And then he says, well, I was, yes, you were doing something unselfish and responsible with the money, but it was at my expense. Is what
That
Allison
was a
says.
good
Yeah.
line, I thought.
Yeah.
At my expense. That's a great way to say it.
Your line.
Yeah. I thought
And
that was a
when
good
does
line.
he say, imagine it in my shoes? Imagine it from my point of view.
Yeah, I think
He
that's
says
after
that.
after she leaves, right? And
Imagine it from my point. I'm like, no.
yeah,
Why? You acted it out.
Yeah.
And it
You
sucks.
lied and
Your point of
manipulated.
view
Yeah.
sucks.
so yeah, so
Point of view
after
is stupid.
I'm not going to imagine it.
I've learned that from years of couples therapy.
I have imagined it, and it's dumb. So after Dawn leaves, Allison says, "Billy, you do this every time, jumping headfirst into a relationship without a moment's thought." And Billy says, "Unlike you, who you withhold all your feelings." And Allison accuses Billy of play acting as an adult, living in a dream world because he can barely take care of himself. But Billy apologizes about the money, says he'll pay her back. Allison says she thinks she could never trust him again. So it ends on a very bad feeling between the two.
My mother said that to me one time when I ate half an ice cream sandwich and lied about it.
What'd she say?
And she can never
I can
trust you
never
again.
trust you again.
She
It may have
said
been
that.
a slight overreaction.
It might be her favorite
Yeah.
food ever.
Hence,
I'd like to ask her if she's held true to that.
yeah,
Are you over it yet, Mom?
I can never trust
Clearly
you
I'm
again.
not.
Yeah.
Because you said you didn't eat any of it?
This is how stupid I was. I ate half of it. Like if I'd taken all of it, you ate half of it and put the other half back. You said, did you eat it? And I was like, no.
You're such a good
moron. There's
girl.
half an ice cream sandwich.
Oh my God.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we all
the
have
things
those
we remember
childhood
from our
traumas
childhood.
of lying.
Getting caught.
Yeah.
Gracious. So then the next day, Billy comes to Dawn's apartment and he's walking down the hall, overhearing shouting inside. So he barges in to discover the ex-husband is there. And the ex-husband and Dawn are screaming at each other. Billy tries to get in the middle of it, says, I care more about her than you ever did. He shoves the guy when the guy makes a comment about, like, what do you let Martin, our kid, watch you guys?
Again, he's known her for all of 3.5 days.
Yeah. But so that doesn't go well. The ex leaves saying he'll be back at noon to pick up his kid. But after he leaves, Dawn is upset. And he's upset with Billy. Like, get the heck out of the situation with where you don't belong. And at which time we find out that Martin has seen and heard the whole thing. So who gives you the right to interfere, she says to Billy. And Billy says he just wanted to help. Here's where it is. Try and understand how I feel. He says it to Dawn. Try and understand how I feel. But Dawn reminds him here that you're a 23-year-old cabbie who is not ready to take on responsibilities that my life comes with.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that's the crux of the whole show is like, you're in a fantasy. You want to swoop in and be my savior. You gave me the $300, but it's a fantasy. And you really see in this scene where she's like, once it ends, once you leave, I still have this kid. I still have this ex-husband. I still have to get child support. I have to support everything. And it's like real life.
Yeah.
And you get to see how naive he was. Even though he's well-intended, I think he's just trying to be a grown-up, and trying to be responsible. And I'm with Billy. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I'm out. You can take it. You can have the kid and the ex and all that.
Except he's not. He's not thinking that. She's saying, here's your money. I'm going to pay you back the money. And, she tells him things are not always black and white and you should just take this money and you should go. Mm-hmm. So she asks him to go. Mm-hmm. So then back with Sandy, who's storming down to Jane and Michael's apartment the next morning because her or maybe that night, because her dress closet is broken. She has a dress closet in her apartment.
I'd like a dress. I have enough dresses to fill a closet.
You should. I hope you have a dress closet. But
I didn't know you could even have one.
I don't remember Melrose Place having dress closets.
I know.
Only Sandy's apartment.
I've never heard of that term ever in my life.
No,
a dress closet.
That's where she keeps her dresses, in her special closet that locks, I guess, from the inside.
Because they're like,
I don't know.
Fancy dresses are in there.
Yeah. But Jane suggests that maybe Jake could help her fix the door and get her dress closet unlocked since Michael is at the hospital. Jake is in the courtyard fixing his motorcycle and I guess decides to help her because we cut to inside the apartment where he's messing around with a lock. Something weird happens where he's trying to get it unstuck and he goes flying across the room and he hurts himself and he lands on the ground. So like their banter was really angry with each other while he's trying to fix the door, but the minute he falls...
But sexual.
Yes.
Angry but
all
sexual.
All the entendres.
All the innuendos of...
Yep.
Yeah.
And
wait, is it an entendre or an innuendo?
I think there's both.
Is there both in there?
Yeah.
Like one screw and you're on your own or something. I don't know. I can't. But it was these Melrose things.
Yeah.
I don't know if those are entendres
That's
or
entendre.
innuendos, but they were there.
But the innuendo is there as well. So then all of a sudden, they start laughing when he falls and they sort of like change their tune and they're nice to each other again. And they both admit that maybe they should just stick to, enjoying the friendship that they have. Sandy admits that she doesn't actually have a hot date that night. She just needed a dress because she's going to the movies with Rhonda. And all is suddenly right between Jake and Sandy. All he needed was a good, fall.
I'm curious to see if we've sort of tied this up in a bow or if it starts again in the next episode.
So this is
it definitely ties up in this episode.
For today,
quick
we'll
and
see.
neat wrap up of that.
So this is episode 9.
Yes.
Okay, a few more episodes till someone else comes to town.
I know. We're more than halfway to Daphne, people.
Way more than halfway.
And I don't think the blonde was there. I think she was already gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she left at 13 and you came at 14, right?
I think, yeah.
And you came at 19.
We're
almost halfway to Laura.
We're almost halfway to Laura. Yeah.
You could say goodbye to the Brady Bunch version of Melrose Place.
Yeah, things are going to get way different soon. So then Billy comes home with the money for Allison. Again, he apologizes to her for screwing things up, and he doesn't want her to stop trusting him. She says that she understands he was just trying to be noble, but he just wasn't being realistic. He said he was trying to be needed, not just to be cared for. Like he feels like he's always being cared for by others. And he liked being needed, and he actually wants to talk to Dawn again. So, like, as much as things seem to be wrapped up with Billy and Allison, he still wants to go back and try again with Dawn.
No, I think this is right, you guys. I think it's honest of him to say, I just wanted to be needed. He created this whole scenario so he could insert himself to feel needed. I mean, what's a boy to do? If you're not that needed, you're going to create the situation. I think it's honest of him to say that.
Oh, it's totally honest. I agree. I'm just like noting that she asked him to leave. Like, you should just take this money and you should just go.
Right.
And so he goes back to Allison instead of saying, hey, I can take a hint. Even though I liked being needed, she doesn't want me there, right? He can't take that. He's like, I'm going to go see her again tonight.
Right.
Yeah. So he just tries one more time.
Yeah. I need her to need me, so I'm going to need to go over there to get her to say, I need you, which she's not going to say, but let's see what happens.
So off he goes. He goes back to Dawn's stand-up show, and this time her whole set is about divorce and relationships and falling for the wrong guys, all these guys who are living out their superhero fantasies. And Billy's listening, and he's realizing as he's listening to what she's saying that she's doesn't want to be rescued. She actually wants commitment. Billy's face is starting to say maybe he's not so sure he can be that guy, commitment man.
He is also feeling mocked, and like she specifically is writing this material about him.
Yeah, it sure looks like it.
That's humiliating.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it does look like it. But he meets her at the bar after the set, and he tries once more, and Dawn says, we should just leave it alone. And he says, but I get it, but I do want to continue spending time with you. And she says, I'm the one who's not ready, and I just need to make it on my own. And with all the things in my life, there's just no room for you, Billy, she says. So Billy finally takes a hint, and he says, okay, but can I say bye to Martin, who's the kid? And she says, no, I don't think that's a good idea.
For either of you?
Yeah.
For either of you.
Yeah.
Because he's going to start it back up, get that hook in.
He tells her, then can you just tell Martin that I said, hasta la vista, baby? Martin will understand.
Oh, that is cute.
So the next morning, Billy's at home reading the paper at the apartment. He's dreaming about all the places he's never traveled and realizing that freedom is great. Maybe he will just go to all these great places.
And
since
not
he's
have
young.
kids.
Yeah,
And be
since he's
his
young,
carefree, child-free self.
no ties to anyone. And he also says that having a family was great for a second, if only for a second. And it's something to look forward to someday. And then the flirty between Billy and Allison.
Yeah, with the right person.
A flirty conversation about who might that be with. And Allison leaves with a super flirty look to him and says, you never know. I'm right in front of you, you ding dong. Pretty sure that's what that look said. So yeah, we have another episode where things are neatly wrapped up. And like you said, it's not going to be that way. Pretty soon, the whole tone of the show is going to change, which we know.
Well, yeah, and it's not always wrapped up. I feel like these are morality plays a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, again, like
lesson learned.
Well, yeah, like you have the Jake and the Sandy, these kind of sexualized characters trying to just be buds and go to a movie and not hop in the sack. And then you have these two having their whole chance to have this fantasy family, going to the amusement park and everything. And I just feel like this is a whole Melrose Place that I never knew existed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like these morality plays. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like lessons learned. Yeah.
And like teaching, it's so funny for Daphne and I to watch it because we were so not there.
I
We're
mean,
not,
we're just did
observers.
Joe ever have a and then I'm cut to her on the boat.
Yeah.
She's being like smacked around and the baby and the
such a different show. But like they're all like teaching each other. Like Allison is really teaching Billy, you need to learn this, and this is a perfect example of this. And then by the end of the episode, he's sort of learning it or whatever. Like she was right, But it's just such an interesting difference between
for sure.
where it's going. Jake so earnestly trying to be like a guy who knows how to be friends with a girl. I really want to try.
Yeah.
Michael trying to help him. Anyway, so we had a kiss count in this one. There were a couple kisses, couple new characters, couple old characters.
Couple shirtless in the pool, but not
Couple
a lot.
shirtless in the
It's
pool.
not that, we're shifting away from that. It's not like the beginning.
boys'
So it's
abs.
interesting because it started with kissing, then it sort of came off, and then pretty soon it's going to be just a free-for-all.
Yeah.
It's just like people making out left and right.
I know I threatened to make like a chart. Like, I think I'm going to do it to like just keep track. It's almost like a family tree. Like, you like connect the dots. I think I need to make a chart like before it's too late and keep track like of who kissed who.
You won't be able to keep track.
I
to
know.
get to us.
I better start now. I mean, I better start the chart.
Do you guys want to answer a couple of fan questions?
Yeah, we had some fan questions. That's so fun.
Here's a couple questions. We have two. The first one is, how long did it take for an episode to be filmed and then actually air? So
It was 7 days to film.
Okay, so then shows were traditionally 7 or 8.
Yeah, we were 7
Some were
days.
7 and some were 8.
Yeah,
So this
we
one
were
was 7?
7, and
I always thought it
when
was
in the
8.
first season, before we did double ups, it was right on our tail because they found out reruns didn't do well. So we would be shooting to finish to get it out almost immediately.
They'd have a few weeks of post production. Like,
Yeah,
as soon
and we
as
would
you
start in August, and I think it would start on the air in September, October. So we'd be a few episodes ahead, and then when it caught up with us, we'd do double ups and get all those episodes in the can.
Yeah. So what do you think? Was it about 4 weeks of post production after we'd finished shooting? They had about 3 to 4 weeks before it would be on the air.
Yeah, except those times when it was getting really super tight.
Yeah.
And it turned around
Yeah,
really,
I
really
do
fast.
remember
That
that.
was when the show started to do really well.
Yeah,
And
I
they just
remember.
kept adding in the first season. Remember, we were supposed to do 26, then they added and added and added till we got to 33. We did a full 12 months in a row the first season.
I didn't know until you saying this. It's kind of faint bells are being rung here of it not doing well in reruns. People just wanted fresh
Yeah.
story, fresh what's happening now.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if it's a certain kind of show that doesn't do well in reruns.
Serials. So once we
Serials.
started, like I was thinking you don't have scenes from the last episode because they didn't really connect at this point, right?
Right.
But eventually you have to have the scenes so that you can tell them what happened so they're up to date because it started moving through the story so fast
yeah.
by the end of the first season.
And also, like, if we're shooting a 7-day shooting schedule, let's say you start on a Monday, so you finish it on the following Tuesday for 7 days, and you immediately start on Wednesday on the next episode. So it just keeps rolling back to back to back. And Wednesday is day 1 of the 7 days of the next episode. So it was just like this constant.
Yeah, it's
one
not.
into
It's
the
7
other.
work days, right? It's
Right,
not
7
it's
work
like,
days.
It's not like Monday to Sunday. It is.
it's Monday
And there
through
was
Friday.
there was never a day in between. Like, it's not like, okay, we finished that episode,
Yeah.
take
No.
a day
Boom.
and
No.
breathe. No, it was like whoop right into
Like
the
you're
next one.
shooting the last scenes that need to be shot for that episode, and then you're getting the script and the makeup. It would be in your trailer,
Yeah.
hot off the presses. I
Yep.
remember it being worn
Or on your
sometimes.
Yeah,
doorstep.
totally warm.
Remember
Yeah.
going out to see your changes in the morning? You get
Yeah.
that
Changes.
pink and blue pages.
Yeah, they actually delivered papers.
The other question here is, did you have extended time off, or did you work 12 months of the year?
Well,
So I
Courtney-
remember, well, we didn't work 12. So
Only
I
the first
remember,
season.
I don't remember working 12. I remember,
Well, because you came in at 14.
correct.
So
First
you didn't
season.
work. Yeah, so you didn't work 12 months because you came in later. But we, those of us who were there from day one, worked 12 months in a row the first season.
Well, I came in halfway through the first season, right? 15. So I guess my question is, Courtney, 12 months means you didn't have time off. I was going to say we had 2 weeks off for Christmas. You had to have Christmas vacation off. And then you have to have usually a hiatus, and ours was short.
Right. The first season, we didn't have a hiatus because we did 33 episodes in a row. So normally your 10 and a half month season is 24 or 26 episodes. But because then we added more, we went from, I think, July to July. We would get, I remember Lona Jefferson, they'd announce more shows. They get good news, and she and I would both be crying. Like we'd both go because we were so bone tired because 14 to 16 hours a day for 12 months in a row.
Yeah.
Learning we were so beaten up.
Yeah.
But then normally you get 2.5 months, so you end in.
Okay, but what I'm talking about is we didn't have 2.5 months. We had a few weeks, but everyone has to have Christmas vacation. 2 weeks,
Right.
at least. You
But
have
it
to
sounds
have
like
that.
between seasons that first year
In
when they
between
realized,
seasons.
they
Yeah.
needed to get on the air all
And
the
that's
time.
with someone having 22 episodes. They would finish in, let's say, March or April, and then you wouldn't shoot again till summer. But we
Yeah.
never had that.
Well,
we
the
never had
next
that.
year we did double ups. We'd have 2 months. We had May and June off. We'd go
I
back
don't
in
remember.
July.
Yeah. Well, I
We had
remember
May and June
shooting a couple of miniseries during that, and I just eating up my hiatus. So
Yeah.
was it 2 months we had off?
I remember it being
6 to 8
months.
weeks. It
Yeah.
felt like a really brief time.
Yeah.
Like I had to schedule a knee surgery in there and get recovered, and it was like it just felt like a really small window. And even for for the crew too, like they have those windows too. It's like everybody needs to schedule their important stuff or
Like their family.
God forbid
Their
a vacation, right? But
Yeah.
but definitely like stuff
Yeah,
like
I
this.
remember saying I'm not working. Then I had a month off and I felt rested. So then I did a TV movie and then it was right back to work. And I was like, oh man, I only
Why
had
did I
a
do
month
that?
off.
Yeah.
I should have just rested. But
Yeah.
you feel like, okay, yeah, sure, I
Yeah.
can do that. And then it's just boom, boom, boom.
But we were young. And
We were
I
young.
had more energy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So did you have so the answer to that is we did not have extended time off. We worked a lot around the clock. Once again, Aaron Spelling started doing double ups. Weren't we the first show he ever did that with?
They thought this will never work. It's a ridiculous thing. We're just gonna do. It's not. We were all sort of rolling our eyes and laughing, and then it worked well enough that we kept doing it.
It worked for them.
But I will say this though, like over time, the cast got to be so big that you didn't work every day.
Yeah.
Right. You never knew your schedule that far in advance. But and our ADs did a great job of
keeping you
it
where you
rarely
should be.
changed.
Yeah.
Like once it worked, you knew you'd have 2 days off here and there, which made a huge difference.
Yeah. It's an incredible puzzle to try to get that all to work
Incredible how
together, but they did it.
especially double ups. That was insane.
Especially if an actor had to be from a location, let's say downtown, and at some empty hospital, and then up in Oxnard in one day. I mean, and
Well, yeah,
even-
Laura was doing Oxnard to Santa Clarita for one episode.
Yeah,
I know they tried
mean,
not to have us do
I
that,
did
but
too,
sometimes it's
from
just impossible.
different
not to,
far locations.
Yeah.
So
Well, those were the days. We were young.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Young actors now would love to have 33 episodes of anything. They do like
Anybody,
6 episodes
any
a
age.
season. They would love it.
I know.
Yeah, as long as it's an ensemble where you can share the workload and
Yeah,
that
again,
was,
and
it
as
was
we
really
said
great.
before, we were so lucky because we got along and it was a big group. We really were lucky. It's fun to watch because I have such warm feelings about that time.
Yeah.
Same. And I feel like you said that your favorite thing about doing a TV show is like all the guest stars and
Yeah.
stuff. My favorite thing is the family that is built with like the
Yeah,
cast
that's what
and
I
the
meant.
crew.
That was my answer too.
I mean,
that was my answer too.
we can have more than one favorite.
I
And
love
it's all
I
favorite.
love the fact of having a place to go, the set and the crew. Because I come from a very small family and we were split up. So
Yeah.
like my mom lived back east, my sister I was all alone out here. My dad was up in San Francisco, and I just loved like having a place and routine.
Yeah.
I loved
Yeah.
the routine and the family and the crew.
And it was a special group that we all sort of like. I think it's magic when you go, oh, that was a great group of people to have to spend that much time with these people.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that
It
it
is
was
magic.
Yeah.
We're super duper lucky.
So
on
good.
that note,
Can't wait to get out of here.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we love our fans' questions too.
Yeah.
Because
So much fun.
keep them coming. DM us on our
And
Still the
you
Place
guys-
Instagram.
Also, they can help us. Those of you who are watching the podcast, leave messages, download, tell people about it, right? So
Yeah.
we get more.
Yeah, do that. And also,
followers.
if you know, look at
Follow
the
us.
next episode and ask specific questions about that episode because that would be fun. Like if you're watching a little bit ahead of us and then you post questions and we can answer them. So
Yeah,
we're
it's
probably a few episodes ahead of you guys. So
You have to
just,
ask us
like,
a
look
little bit in
ahead.
advance if you
Yeah.
have a specific question about a specific episode. But we'd love to get to them, and we love your questions, and we loved meeting everybody at the con. And yeah, it's just been so fun.
All right.
Bye.
Bye guys.
Bye.